Simon says, let's talk about polyvagal theory. How's that? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's Remind podcast. My name's David Masterton, and joined next to me is Dr. Ashleigh Moreland. And today
next to you from
we
a
have
whole other state.
Well, no, but
I wish I was next to you. I wish we were sharing a cuppa.
Oh, we might have to in the future do a live one. But where we are right now is actually on a screen together in front of the people watching it or listening. So that's pretty awesome. And today we're talking about a subject that I am particularly sort of across. Actually, I'm not at all. I'm going to be learning just with you guys at the same time. We're going to be talking about polyvagal theory. And so my knowledge on it is limited to, hey, ChatGPT, what's polyvagal theory? So Ash, talk us through, because I think it's got to do with a little bit about what was like maybe what we talked about last week and what you learnt at the conference that you went to. So I am keen to hear about all of this.
Yes, well, as anyone who has watched, listened, followed, or done any of our programs at Remind Institute would know, we tie in neuroscience and human behavior and healing to help people thrive in life instead of survive. And one of the things that I have a few pet peeves, and one is if you go to TikTok and you put in nervous system regulation, for example, it's just going to flood your feed with things like breath work and things like cold water immersion and, you know, the inside of your ear stimulation and all this sort of stuff. And you'll hear a lot of content about the vagus nerve. And although that is all relevant and it is all accurate, one of the limitations of this content is it doesn't talk about why were we dysregulated in the first place. And I've used this analogy many times before on our show, where if I had a fire, if my house was on fire, I would want the tools. I would want the tools, the fire blanket, the extinguisher, 000 fire brigade. I would want those tools to help me put out the fire. But if I need to rely on those tools every single day because my house is relentlessly catching on fire, then there's a deeper problem. And this is where our work kind of stretches this whole nervous system regulation, because I personally don't believe that needing to rely on those acute tools to regulate a chronically dysregulated nervous system is the way to go. And in our work with clients all around the world, that's what we see is we need to get to the root of why is your nervous system so chronically dysregulated. 9 times out of 10, it is unprocessed emotions and unresolved trauma. So an example might be if I had a traumatic experience and that traumatic experience put me into a freeze response, the energy of that freeze response is going to be stuck and trapped in my body. And there's an amazing book called The Body Keeps the Score that goes into that in great detail. And so therapeutically, I need to actually process out that freeze energy from my body. And this is really common in things like PTSD. I need to process out that trapped freeze energy to be able to mobilize my nervous system back into safety again. And I could give many, many different examples of that. But one thing that I have never really spoken about, because I've always sort of spoken about it in simple terms and generalized. So I've generalized in the sense that the sympathetic is the fight and flight system. More often than not, there is too much sympathetic activation, which is making people experience things like anxiety and panic and hypervigilance and aggression and irritability and overthinking and an inability to rest.
Survival modes in there as well?
Yes. Well, fight and flight is survival modes. They're two different avenues to support our survival. And so I would say sympathetic is probably most commonly what we're working with. Probably 85-90% of our clients are coming with sympathetic dominance. And so a lot of those, that vagus nerve, that trying to bring in the rest and digest is really important. But something that I have never spoken about, because I guess in my line of work, there's so much focus on the dysfunction trying to come into function, is I have never spoken about the healthy expressions of these systems. So yes, the sympathetic nervous system is the fight-flight system. The parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest system, which in its dysfunctional expression can look like disconnection from others, can look like numbness, dissociation, collapse, hopelessness, helplessness, feeling stuck, avoidance. So that's what unhealthy parasympathetic activity can look like. But we've never spoken about why these systems are helpful and healthy in the positive. And one thing is, say, for example, if I have an idea in my business and I'm lit up for that idea, but I'm feeling calm and grounded and present and like all these things, maybe I'm really deeply relaxed. Maybe I'm in a state of stillness. Well, actually, the get up and go I need to execute the task requires me to get some sympathetic activation. Have you ever been sort of, and this can happen, like if you're sitting there doing some computer work and you're really like low key, maybe you're bored, maybe you're just super relaxed, maybe you're in the zone, but then you need to actually get up and be energized to do something. That means we need to know how to turn up the volume on our sympathetic nervous system to actually get some life force energy, to actually get some alertness, motivation, drive, being able to think and act decisively and quickly. And this is really important even in play. Like, look at kids. Kids have that. We always comment on it. Oh, kids have this endless supply of energy. Because generally speaking, kids can move through these nervous system states very fluidly because they haven't been relentlessly traumatized and gotten stuck yet. So I think that's one thing that I find to be really, really important to talk about, is going, okay, it's one thing to need to know what the dysfunctional expressions look like. What does fight look like? What does flight look like? But what's the healthy function of our sympathetic nervous system? Because sometimes that get up and go is essential in order for us to achieve our goals, in order for us to be productive and positive contributors to society. So
and look,
that's the first side of it.
Yeah, so just an example, right? And I love the fact you talked about kids and play. Because as you were talking, the first thing that came to mind is, what's a healthy expression as a dad? Watching my kids play, they're having a great time. Now, am I in parasympathetic or sympathetic? Chances are I'm in sympathetic, right? And that's not a bad thing, right? Because I have been in times where they're playing, I'm being vigilant, maybe hyper-vigilant, but depending on what they're doing, right? If they're just running around on mulch and things like that, not so much of a problem. They're climbing a pyramid, those rope pyramids. As they're climbing up, so is my nervous system, right? Because I need to be ready. But there have been times, especially where the kid's playing and they're playing around me, jumping around, doing all of that. Sympathetic mode is engaged. Child goes to fall, and my reflexes have been able to catch them quickly. Now, if I had to think about it, oh, geez, they seem to be moving at quite a rapid rate. Do I have time to maybe put my hand out and grab them, or is it okay? Can they catch themselves? It's already fallen over.
Because you're already in an immobilized state. So it takes time to transition from immobilized to mobilized.
Yeah.
And there's interplay between these states. It's really important.
Yeah. And so, I think that's a healthy expression. Unhealthy expression of sympathetic is in that same thing. I'm a dad with kids. I'm sitting on the couch, child beside me, they're watching TV. It's too loud, and I'm just watching everything that they're doing. I'm still in that sort of state. I can't come back down, right? I'm wondering, what are they watching? How are they doing it? Almost like helicoptering over them in a point where I could just simply relax and know they're just sitting there and it's all okay. So absolutely, there are some times, and I find that when I'm in the sort of hyper focused states, like there's nothing calm about that. I am in the zone. It's sort of like everything closes around and it's like knit, and that is go get it done. And I do get a kick out of it. Now, if I was in that locked in state 24/7, I mean, burnout's just right round the corner.
Exactly. And this is where I think being able to move through. So if you think about it, regulation is being able to move through states in an appropriate way. So being able to move from a healthy expression of parasympathetic, where I'm calm and I'm grounded and I'm curious and I'm open, into a healthy expression of a sympathetic state where I'm able to be passionate and assertive and I can speak up, I can hold a boundary, I can play, I can focus, I can be alert, and then being able to come back down again and back into maybe rest and a relaxed state, or into social engagement, being able to connect with others. Because when I'm up in my really passionate, assertive, speaking up state, that's not about connection. It's very hard to be connected to someone who is up, passionate, engaged. You can be attentive to them, but it's very hard to feel a sense of connection with them.
Oh, you can feed off it. If someone's highly energetic, you can feed off it, but it's as you said, it's not
connected. And so the next step is to break how we think about the parasympathetic nervous system down is in polyvagal theory, exactly as the name suggests. Poly means multi, like multiple or many, and vagal is talking about the vagus nerve. So in polyvagal theory, it's talking about you've got your vagus nerve, the ventral, kind of like more the top part, and you've got the dorsal. So you've got ventral vagal, which is really responsible for things like, I think about it like the social engagement system. Ventral vagal is when we're in a healthy state, we're able to connect and be creative and connect. So I already said connect, but like socially relate with and to others in a healthy way. Healthy expression of the dorsal vagal is really your rest and digest. It really is your deep relaxation side of things. Which is not about social engagement. It's about restoration, right? Completely different function. But then the dysfunctional expressions of both of those, if you think about the top part being, if the healthy expression is social engagement, well, what's the dysfunctional expression is disconnection from others. It's social withdrawal, it's shame, it's lack of emotional or psychological safety. It's not being able to trust others. It's being like hypervigilant of, or cynical maybe, could be a good word. Then with the...
Would you say lack of drive would be part of this? Or is it, am I talking about something else?
I would probably see lack of drive being more dorsal, because dorsal vagal, which is like the, I guess, think about it as sort of the lower part. Dorsal vagal is your shutdown. It's like healthy expressions of dorsal vagal is rest and relaxation and stillness and restoration. But the dysfunctional expressions is lack of drive. It's numbness, dissociation, feeling stuck, procrastinating, being unable to initiate anything, laying there feeling like you probably should get up and do the thing, but you just can't. And so the dorsal vagal dysfunction is often diagnosed as depression. But what we understand about depression is the clinical diagnostic criteria for depression is everything I just said about dorsal vagal shutdown without a reason. But I am yet to ever meet a human being who has dorsal vagal shutdown for no apparent reason. There's always context that makes it make sense from a nervous system perspective as to why they're experiencing those symptoms.
There'll be a catalyst somewhere.
There's a catalyst somewhere. And so quite often also some symptoms of that is digestive dysfunction, sexual dysfunction, immune system dysfunction. And so the body is literally going into, I have used all my survival resources and I've got nothing left. And so I'm just going to shut everything down and just try and either wait to die or hibernate until the threat has passed. And that's what that can kind of look like long term. So we call that the freeze response, or at a dorsal vagal severe freeze response, it's like considered dorsal collapse. So it's pretty extreme. But I think, so our programs go into a lot of this in helping people to understand the nervous system, what sits beneath the nervous system that actually helps to explain why they're experiencing what they're experiencing. But it really struck me when I realized that we've never spoken, like, I think if people had have just engaged in our content, they would think that the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system only serves the function of survival. But that's not true. The sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system serve functions of thriving too. They serve functions of passion and drive and energy and being able to come into that state of rest and relaxation and presence and curiosity and openness and ability to connect with others and all those kinds of things. And so this resetting our nervous system is really about being able to move out of those stuck states, out of those dysfunctional expressions of the ventral and dorsal vagal nervous systems and the sympathetic nervous system into the capacity to be healthily moving between those states.
And it makes a lot of sense. Like another idea that sort of came to mind is in a society where as a whole, and this is a very big generalization, we don't drink enough water, right? So the messaging is drink more water. Now, there is something that is not really spoken about too often, that you can drink yourself to death with water. Because if you drink too much, you will flush all the essential minerals and nutrients out of your body and you're done, right? You basically drink yourself into dehydration.
Yeah, because your heart is a muscle.
Like, it needs these things.
What happens when you lack electrolytes? You cramp. If your heart muscle cramps, you're in big trouble, my friend.
It does one pump. Yeah. And so, but again, it's like what we've been talking about before. The reason why we talk about the sympathetic versus the parasympathetic is because it's in an environment where one is overused. And I think if we go back to even just last week's episode, right, you've got a parent who is hypervigilant. Where does that land, right? So again, someone who's hypervigilant constantly all the time is going to be running in that sympathetic area. Am I getting that right? Sympathetic. So what we're going to be saying is
stuck in sympathetic dysfunction.
Dysfunction is what.
Yes, stuck there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If someone's stuck in sympathetic all day, that's dysfunction, right? If they're stuck in parasympathetic all day, and you say stuck, right? They can't, gently move in between the two. That's a problem. That's the dysfunction right there. The inability to switch between the two. So the reason why we talk about the fact like parasympathetic is good, it's in the environment of we are too over-reliant, we are going too hard and all of that, like in an environment where we don't drink enough water, so drink more water. But, as the guy drinking an energy monster can while talking about this. So I get it. But yes, the healthy expressions of it, for sure.
I was trying to turn my mute back on. I think the next logical step for me in this conversation is thinking about, I have definitely spoken about this before in the context of getting it right in how you approach it. Because if you don't understand what's happening in your own nervous system, you could actually be making the problem worse, right? Like if someone is in dorsal vagal collapse, in that absolutely stuck, numbed out, dissociated state. And
Can't
they go
move.
to TikTok and they're like, oh, well, I think my nervous system's dysregulated. And then they go and they try and do a whole heap of stuff that is
To downregulate.
nervous system regulation. Things
And that's
like
and that's like down regulating, right? Going from the high
down
in-
regulating,
yeah.
because generally speaking, almost all, it's vagus nerve stimulation. It can actually push them deeper into that collapse. And so what's really important to understand is that if you can identify which state of dysfunction you are in, if your symptoms are pointing towards a sympathetic state of dysfunction, which there might be anxiety, anger, an inability to stop, constant hypervigilance and
Which
that
is
sort
like
of stuff,
going hyper. It's like raising that sort of
then exactly,
anxiousness,
then
the
that
anxiety, the higher levels of.
Yeah, exactly. The two prongs of the approach to resolving that is, one, actually dealing with what's the root cause of your sympathetic dysfunction in the first place. Is it unresolved emotions, unresolved trauma? Is it environmental factors? Is it food intolerances? Whatever it might be that's contributing to that, get to the bottom of that. So put the fire out, deal with your dodgy wiring so it doesn't keep catching on fire. But also the things that are going to support you to move out of that state are your things that are going to down-regulate your nervous system. But the opposite is true for someone who is in that numb, stuck, dissociated sort of collapse state. If someone is in that state and they start doing the nervous system regulation tools to down-regulate, they're going to push themselves deeper into the hole. It's still true that we still need to get to the root of what put you there in the first place. What past experiences did you have? What belief systems do you have? What unresolved emotions do you have? That part is still true. But how we actually support the body to move out of that state is really different. It's going to be things like gentle activation. It's going to be things like getting our body moving. It's going to be things like sensory stimulation to up-regulate. Even the way that we use our breath will change, because having, for example, two short, sharp inhales, that can up-regulate our nervous system. Whereas if we're trying to do a breathing practice where we're doing really long, extended exhales, that's pushing us further down. So there is an art to this.
Gentle up regulation. Go outside, gentle walk, touch grass, as you said.
Move
do
your body,
breathing exercises.
Start to understand where your body begins and ends and things like that. It's so, so valuable. So my main take-home message from this is the reason that our work works is because we're supporting you, and like the programs that we've put together. The anxiety program is completely different to the depression program, because hopefully by now what you've been able to identify is that the issues that are going on in the anxiety, which is over dysfunction of the sympathetic nervous system, are completely different and require a completely different approach to the issues that are going on in something like burnout or something like depression, because they're different branches and different dysfunctions at different levels of the nervous system. And so I think that's my take-home message is be careful applying things, off TikTok search engine.
Oh, but it could be anywhere. I mean, before TikTok, it was Dr. Google.
Totally.
And now our mate AI. You got to be careful with prompting, because it will say yes a lot of the time. You still have to, I think what we're saying is apply still your own critical thinking, and we're giving you a little bit more information for you to be able to do that, to sort of say, again, yes, you need to drink more water, because based on 80% of the population or 90% or whatever statistic you want to throw out there, we're not drinking enough. But for those 10% or 5% or whatever that are getting enough, you're good. And for those other much smaller percentage, which is getting too much, then back off it. But as a general rule, that the advice of saying drink more water applies to a larger amount of people at this point of time in this moment in society. So that's what we're kind of saying. So, because, upregulating something, and again, like, even when it comes to meditations, there's different types of meditations to allow things to creatively come up versus emptying the mind. You got to know which one you want to do but again, it doesn't hurt in starting to try and feel what's going on in your body. And if you think you're depressed, there could be some vagus nerve things going in there as well. It's not that the vagus nerve is a diagnosis for your depression, and it's not that the depression doesn't exist. It's that it works within this container of how you feel, so you can treat the depression with the vagus nerve and together as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and
I would love to hear from our listeners if they just loved the juiciness of going a bit deeper with this stuff. Give us some feedback. Do you want more of this? Do you not? What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want us to keep it vague? Oh,
you're so funny.
I couldn't help it. I had to throw a dad pun in there somehow, as corny as it was. Yeah, absolutely, guys. If you want to get a bit more, because a lot of the time we talk about these in a sort of more daily basis and examples and how we'd go about it. But to dive more into the medically juicy, let us know, because we can. So, but look, comment, like, subscribe, all free. Love to get your feedback on it. And until then, we will catch you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.